Ecology is the scientific study of the relationships and interactions between organisms and their environment. The term comes from the Greek words oikos, meaning household or home, and logos, meaning study. What this really means is that ecology looks at life not in isolation, but as part of a living household, a system where every organism has a role and every interaction shapes the conditions for survival. Now, one of the most important ideas within ecology is biodiversity. Biodiversity refers to the number and variety of plants, animals, and microorganisms that exist in an ecosystem. It includes how many species there are, how different they are from each other, and how they fit into the larger ecological picture. And what this really means is that ecosystems with high biodiversity tend to be more resilient. They recover from disturbances more easily, and they support more stable interactions over time. Biodiversity exists within a context, and that context is the environment. So what is an environment exactly? An environment is everything that surrounds an organism and influences its existence, growth, and development. It includes both the community of organisms, which we call the biotic factors, and the physical conditions around them, which we call abiotic factors. In other words, the environment is the combination of living and non-living components that shape how organisms live, adapt, and interact. Within an ecosystem, the living components include producers, organisms such as green plants that capture light energy and convert it into food, and consumers, which depend on other organisms for energy. The non-living components include sunlight, nutrients, soil, air, temperature, and many other physical factors. What this really means is that without these abiotic elements, even the most complex communities of organisms cannot function. Light drives photosynthesis, nutrients support growth, and soil conditions influence which plants can survive. An ecosystem is made up of all these interacting elements. It includes the flow of light, the presence of green plants, the cycling of nutrients, and the roles of organisms such as herbivores, carnivores, parasites, scavengers, decomposers, and saprophytes. Each group contributes to the functioning of the system. Decomposers break down dead material, transforming nutrients into forms that plants can use again. Herbivores transfer energy from plants to higher levels of the food chain. Carnivores keep herbivore populations in balance. What this really means is that ecosystems rely on these roles working together to maintain stability and continuity. Some components of an ecosystem are essential. Without them, the system cannot operate. These include sunlight, producers, consumers, and the basic nutrient cycles. Other components may be present, but not crucial for basic functioning. The key idea here is that an ecosystem is a structured network with certain fundamental requirements. When those are removed or disrupted, the entire system can collapse. Biotic factors refer to all the living components of an ecosystem. In a grassland, for example, biotic factors include plant species such as Digitaria melangiana, Brachiaria, and woody species like acacia, baobab, or mopane. They also include herbivores such as zebras, elephants, giraffes, wildebeest, and impala, carnivores such as lions, cheetahs, and leopards, and scavengers like hyenas and vultures. What this really means is that every living organism contributes to the structure and functioning of the ecosystem, no matter how large or small. Abiotic factors, on the other hand, are the non-living components. These include temperature, humidity, rainfall, solar radiation, wind, soil nutrients such as nitrates and phosphorus, and the pH of the soil. These factors determine which species can survive in a particular environment. What this means is that abiotic conditions set the stage, and biotic components fill that stage in ways shaped by evolution and adaptation. Understanding ecology and biodiversity brings all these ideas together. It allows us to see ecosystems not as random collections of organisms, but as interconnected systems built on relationships, dependencies, and environmental conditions. And ultimately, it helps us appreciate how delicate, complex, and essential these systems are for the survival of life on Earth. This brings us to the end of this introduction to ecology and biodiversity. In the next lesson, we will explore the concepts of species and ecological niches and how organisms fit into the environments they occupy.